Okay. All right. Good evening. The Twiggs County Board of Education regular board session meeting is called to order. Today is April the 14th, 2020, and the time is 6:04 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the moment of silence. I pledge the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. We're proud to say that this is a first time for everything, and we have all of our board members and our superintendent present, and we are live for the public to be able to view our meeting. And at this time, if you see your agenda before you, is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Madam Chair, I make the motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Second motion.
The motion has been made by Ms. Blackshear and seconded by Mr. Rouse to approve the agenda of tonight's meeting. I do believe Mr. Dixon said that there's one item on the meeting that's already there, and that's item C. That's the contract language review. That will need to be an action item. If you will just let me know if you keep your motion to approve and second the meeting with that change, that item C, the contract language review, will need to be an action item.
Agreed.
I agree.
Okay. The motion has been made by Ms. Blackshear and seconded by Mr. Rouse to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, and that is with the exception of item C, the contract language. Instead of review, it does need to be an action item. Is there any discussion? Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. And I can see you raise your hand. Okay. Ms. Stokes, what is your vote? Do you vote to approve the agenda? Ms. Stokes? Ms. Stokes, do you vote to approve the agenda? Let's see if I can get her. I wonder if she can hear us. Ms. Stokes, can you hear me?
Do I need to call her on a house phone?
I wonder. She has her cell phone right there, but I don't know. She was talking to Mr. Basley earlier. I don't know if she can't hear, if she's turned her, I don't know if there's a speaker that she's turned off, but she's not able to hear. Let me go.
Mr. Basley, are you working with Ms. Stokes?
Hey, Ms. Stokes, we're voting to approve the agenda with one item change. The contract language on item C, it needs to be an action item and not a review item. And that motion has been made and seconded. Do you vote to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting? Okay. All right. Thank you. You're not able to hear me? Okay. All right. Okay. All right, I'm going to leave my speakerphone on. I'm going to leave my speakerphone on for now until you can hear me through your computer. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, on my telephone.
Okay, well, just hold that there. All right, so the motion has been carried unanimously to approve the meeting, the agenda for tonight's meeting. And we received the minutes. We have minutes before us to approve.
I approve.
And those are, let me find them. The minutes, I have the documents. There they are. Okay, we have minutes for the meeting. No, that's 14th. I don't see. We do not have any minutes from our last meeting to approve. There are not any in our package.
Okay.
So, Mr. Dixon, I'm going to move on from that.
Yes, ma'am.
We don't have any minutes from the last meeting to approve. So we're going to move on from that. There are not any in this package. So if everyone is okay with that, let's move on to the next item on our agenda.
So we can just table those to the next meeting.
And if you'd like to make that in the form of a motion, that would be great, Ms. Blackshear.
I would like to make the motion to table the minutes for our next meeting.
Approval of the minutes. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made by Ms. Blackshear and seconded by Ms. Stokes to table the approval of minutes of our last meeting until our next meeting.
That don't work.
And so that's been made by Ms. Blackshear and seconded by Ms. Stokes. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Yes.
And Ms. Stokes says yes. That motion carries unanimously. Ms. Blackshear, could you please give us an ethics statement, please?
You're mute.
In accordance with regulations set forth by the Georgia Ethics Commission, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflict of interest and interest of such conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest? Madam Chair, we will proceed with our agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Okay. Let me pull up my agenda to make sure. Okay, so Mr. Dixon, do you have any comments to give right now?
Of course, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, it's a great time to be in Twiggs, even in the midst of COVID-19. Learning is still taking place, and we're just thankful for all of the staff and the stakeholders of Twiggs County Public Schools. Glad to report that we're able to post this week our honor graduates, and we're very proud of their accomplishments, our valedictorian and our salutatorian and the 18 other honor graduates. We're very proud of them, and we want to congratulate them from the board and as well as from our community and our stakeholders. And we wish them well in their endeavors, as well as all of our other seniors. We do have some communication going forth as it relates to graduation and some other activities for our seniors. We have our seniors on our mind, and this board is in full support that when we can, we will have a graduation based upon when we can, that we will do that for our seniors. We know that this is a momentous time in the life of a senior and a family, and we will do all we can when we can, as soon as we can. So just stay tuned for more information to come with that. We would also like to say thank you to the Middle Georgia Regional Library for including us in a grant opportunity, and we received some hotspots. We received 4 hotspots for Twiggs County that will help us to infuse our opportunity for connectivity throughout the county. So we're very proud of that, and we're getting education out in all kinds of ways. These hotspots will be placed on our school buses. Some of our school buses are housed out in the community, and the hotspots will be placed and housed on them. We're planning to put one in the Dry Branch area. We're planning to put one down in the Danville area. We're planning to put one over on 129 down in that area. And our other area has just kind of slipped me right now. In the city of Jeffersonville, we have free Wi-Fi in the library parking lot. So that's one of the reasons why we don't have it right in the city of where we're going to put one in the city. So that gives us some connectivity all throughout the county. So we're very appreciative for the regional library for including us in having the Twiggs County Public Schools on their mind at such a time as this. We're very thankful to them for including us on this opportunity. So we're excited about that. So great things are still happening in Twiggs County, even though we're not in the buildings, but great things are still happening. So Madam Chair, that concludes my announcements.
Okay, that's a wonderful news, Mr. Dixon, and thank you for that. And with that being said, we're going to move on to our business agenda. And the first item on our business agenda is item A, and that is an e-learning update. This is an information item, and Mr. King is to present.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Board Member, Superintendent Dixon. Just to give you an update of where we are with our e-learning. Of course, our teachers are doing an outstanding job with keeping our students engaged. And one of the things that we have begun to move forward since we came back from spring break is utilizing the Georgia Department of Education has partnered with GPB to allow us to use some resources. So as a part of that, to ensure that our students have access to continuing education at home, we're going to use the resources that have been provided by GPB, who have partnered with the Georgia Department of Education to offer program broadcasting. So our students will be able to watch those broadcasting on their televisions at home. And then they will be accompanied by some digital resources that adhere to the Georgia State standards for grades pre-K through 12. So our teachers will use this resource to keep our students engaged during the time away from campus. But we will also continue to use our additional resources that we have purchased this year through different vendors, such as MobiMax, USA Test Prep, Renaissance Learning, STEM Scopes, and other resources that our teachers are using. But our main focus is to ensure that all students are engaged. Our teachers will continue to do video conferencing through Google Meets and telephone conferencing. Teachers will make contact with each of their students at least once a week, and they'll do that by either setting up a video conference for their students can join, or they will do telephone conferencing. This will give our teachers the opportunity to establish relationships, because of course we know that next year we will be faced with many challenges due to the lapse in traditional instruction. So we plan to use these opportunities to make sure that our students have a firm foundation. We will really focus on building relationships, focus on our social and emotional skills to make sure our students are safe. And this will help us as we prepare for the upcoming school year.
Thank you for that presentation. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. King? Okay, thank you for that, Mr. King. Our next item on our agenda will be our school nutrition update, and this is also an information item. Mr. Dixon.
Madam Chair, as we've been keeping up with COVID-19 and the progression of the risk that everyone is taking and trying to make sure that we're serving nutritious meals to our students, it's just been such a risk. And as you can tell around us, the number of deaths that have gone up in neighboring counties, we've just been trying to keep it going, as well as trying to keep our staff safe. We did suspend that for last week and this week due to the rise in COVID-19 and the numbers that's going on. We're keeping a close watch on that. It is important that we serve our students, but in the same, we have to make sure that we're maintaining safety for our staff. So in going forward, we want to continue with to feed our students. We have reduced from feeding 5 days a week to 2 days a week. Until we are out of this state of emergency, we would like to go to 1 day a week, where we would take the meals out on Monday, and therefore we would reduce our staff being exposed to 1 day a week until we get out of this state of emergency. Once we get beyond the state of emergency, we will revisit it as a board for us to go back and decide as to how we would proceed further. And this recommendation that I am putting forth is in collaboration with our school nutrition director, Ms. Sandra Stanley. And I would just like to get some input from you all.
So for definitely, you are going to try to do at least the 1 day a week, and you're going to supply the meals for the whole week, that 1 day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Up until we get through this through this emergency period.
I understand.
Yes,
Safety
ma'am.
first.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any of that. Sounds like a plan to me, Mr. Dixon. And Ms. Blackshear's question was the same question I had. So,
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions about that?
When is this supposed to start?
Next week.
Okay, thank you.
Your microphone. All right. If no one else has any other questions, we're going to move on to the next item of our agenda, and that is the contract language, Mr. Austin. And this is an action item.
We can't hear you, Ms. Austin.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. All right. All right, so good evening, board chair, vice chair, superintendent Dixon, board members. As we've discussed for legal matters, we reviewed this with our attorney. And so the liquidated clause will be added into the upcoming contract as proposed. And so just to understand the highlights of what's the purpose, one, we want to make sure we have a suitable replacement in the event that someone decides to resign, to give ourselves the opportunity to find someone that can fill that void. Two, we want to discourage abandonment and a breach by ensuring that employees know that the PSC could investigate the matter, and to ensure that our students have a consistent teacher in that particular classroom. One of the things that was very important in liquidated damages is that we understand that there could be a financial consequence, and that reads if an employee is released more than 30 days prior to the start of the contract, there's $1,000 that will be assessed. $1,500 if the request is made between 16 and 30 days prior to the start of the contract, and $2,000 if the request is made between 15 days and the start of the contract year. And lastly, $2,500 if after the start of the contract year. So we just want to ensure that we are doing what's best for the kids and encourage a shared responsibility when employees are hired and to work for Twiggs County Public Schools. Are there any questions, concerns about the new language that will be in the upcoming contract, if approved?
Excuse me, I just got one question. Is this lined up with any other counties, surrounding counties around us?
Surrounding counties, I I have not checked surrounding counties, but I have had some districts across the state that have similar languages. I have a lot of HR colleagues that have this type of clause, and it is similar, considering that they go through the same lawyer. Mhm.
My point being that I heard what Ms. Blackshear asked. Other counties might not be having with keeping the employees, or they leaving anytime throughout the year. So that might be the reason that they don't have it. But I think it's good for our district.
Turn me back on. I agree with you, Mr. Rouse, too, and I understand Ms. Blackshear's question as well as the other counties. You know, we have been talking about a long time and throughout this year, when we have employees that leave in the middle of the year and then we get stuck not being able to find that suitable replacement, it's very difficult. And because we're in a rural area, it's difficult for us to find highly qualified teachers. And so when we do have them sign, we want them to stay. And we want them to be fabulous, and we want them to stay. So I do agree with that language that we can do there, that we can have in this contract. Are there any other questions? Okay, Mr. Dixon, your recommendation, please.
Madam Chair, it is my recommendation that we move forward with the language changes in our contracts, that we might move forward to get them out. Okay,
so you've heard Mr. Austin's presentation, and you know that we have had this discussion in the past. You've heard our superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion from the board to approve the contract of employment, the language of the contract of employment as presented?
I'll make that motion, Ms. Chair.
The motion has been made by Mr. Rouse. Is there a second? The motion has been made by Ms. Stokes. I have her on my cell phone, and she seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of moving ahead with the contract language as presented this evening, please raise your hands. Ms. Stokes, what's your vote? Okay, Ms. Stokes votes yes. Mr. Harris, did you vote? Okay, so did that motion carry unanimously? Were there any opposed? One opposed. So that motion has 4 for and 1 opposed. So that motion carries. Thank you for that. Okay. Our next item on the agenda is the calendar year for the COVID-19 in response to the COVID-19. This is the 2009 this school year, this school calendar, and this is an action item, Mr. Dixon.
Madam Chair, I would like to bring before you that it came down from the state that we needed to have this in place. We are making no changes to our calendar year. So I just need to, my recommendation is that we keep our same calendar year for the remainder of this academic school year.
And Mr. Dixon, when you say that, you mean that the teachers are going to continue doing their e-learning and sending out other materials for students that don't have the technology resources, and they'll be doing that throughout the rest of this year. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. You've heard our superintendent's recommendation to keep our school calendar as is for the dates. Is there a motion to approve that recommendation?
Madam Chair, I make the motion to approve to keep the calendar year the same.
Motion, excuse me, go ahead.
Second the motion.
Okay, the motion has been made by Ms. Blackshear and seconded by Mr. Harris to approve to keep our school calendar as is. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. And Ms. Stokes says yes. So that motion carries. Were there any opposed? Okay. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. So our next item is also dealing with our COVID-19, and this is the academic grading plan system. And this is also an action plan, Mr. Dixon.
Yes, ma'am.
We got something. We have something in our packet on that.
Yes. Okay. You have it in your packet, and my ADD is kicked in, and that's what I've been going back through this packet and looking for. So if you saw me fumbling, that's what I was looking for. So you have it in your packet, the alternative grading plan, important dates for teachers as we're looking for quarters 1 through 3 will be used to determine the final average for elementary, middle, and high school students. Assignments from March 17th through the end of the school year will assist students in improving their current grades. Grades will reflect remediation and enrichment during this time. Okay, so quarter 3 will end, and this will give an opportunity for students for enrichment and to improve. Remediation, enrichment, and to improve. April 13th through 17th, teachers will post final averages for all students. April the 20th through the 24th, remediation week for any students with an average 69 or below. April the 27th through May the 1st, teachers will verify all grades in order to post grades to student transcripts. May the 4th through May the 8th, graduating seniors will receive 5 copies of their final transcripts by mail. May the 11th through the 15th, final report cards will be mailed to all students.
Okay.
And after our board meeting, once we have everything in approval, all of this information will go out by mail on our website, but all of this will be mailed to all of our parents as well.
Okay, Mr. Dixon, so from April the 20th during the remediation week, or after those final, after the grades are posted, will the remediation students be the only students that are allowed to do any work, or will there be, say you have a child with a 72 or a 78 and wants to move up to an 80, will the other students have an opportunity to raise their grade some if they do the work?
We are using the No Child Left Behind philosophy, in that if you would like to try to work to improve your grade, you will have that opportunity. Okay. If you are also there for remediation, you will also be able to do that. Okay,
so so will the students still be contacted and still have that contact with the teachers until?
Yes, ma'am.
I guess May 15th or I guess May 8th, about May the 8th.
Yes, ma'am. And we will continue to also work on those social and emotional things, because we have not seen the effects of that yet and what we're going to be dealing with that.
Thanks. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Bring back your point of teachers will work on what until May 8th?
They will continue to work beyond May 8th. They will continue to work on social and emotional aspects of education.
And the calendar end date for the end of school year is what date?
The 20.
Was it the 26th?
It was the Memorial Day weekend.
April. Is it the 24th?
It was the May.
Oh, I'm sorry. May 22nd. May 22nd.
Yeah. So instead of saying beyond May 8th, let's just say May 22nd.
May 22nd.
And then one thing about our graduating seniors, Mr. Dixon, a lot of these colleges require that the transcript be sent to the colleges electronically. They won't take, some of the colleges won't take a transcript that is mailed to the student. It has to be the official transcript from the college. How are we going to handle those requests for our seniors applying for colleges and such?
Most of our seniors will have decided where they were going, and we will be able to, our counselors work 12 months. So
Okay.
our counselors are still working. We still
Okay.
email. We still be able to get that. That should not be a barrier at all for our seniors. And if so, please let me or Dr. Ramsey or
Okay.
anyone know, and we will get that taken care of. And these will be sealed transcripts also.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one thing is, are we going to be able to post on our webpage a contact information for people that need to contact the school for records and different things? Do we have access so that students can and parents can contact the school or either our school system? I know we have a lot of people working remotely, but do we have someone that can answer our school number during business hours?
We are working hard on that, and we will have that. All that information is going out in this one packet. We were trying to send out one packet with all the information on it in that contact list. Every person that has a school cell phone number, their number is being published in that packet.
Okay. So
and the departments that they are responsible for. And I gave a timeline of a number of hours to respond with any call that you receive.
Okay. All right. Does anyone have any other questions?
And Ms. Harrison, we took your advisement.
You're talking about saying we'll work through May, through the end of the last day of school, May 22nd. Okay. And this is an action item. I'm correct. This is an action item. So is there a motion to approve our superintendent's recommendation for, is that an action item? I want to make sure that is. Am I correct in saying that is an action? I think it was. It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is an action item.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve our superintendent's recommendation for the alternative education, not the education, the alternative grading plan due to COVID-19? And Mr. Harris, do you want to make that in the form of a motion and include your amendment to have the teachers work on things until the end of the year?
Madam Chair, there are some other concerns I have with the academic grading plan that I think we may need to further discuss before we bring back. So if we could table that, and there's some other legalities I think we could discuss that would be conversation of executive session, and if we could bring this back to public knowledge, and I think Superintendent Dixon, you'll be able to answer some of the questions, but there will be there are some questions that I have with that plan, and it's not necessarily dates. There's just some processes and some systems that we may need to assure before we approve the recommendation.
Okay, I'm just looking to see if that's something we can discuss in
executive.
Mr. Harris, I'm not sure that's one of the things we can discuss in executive session. I'm trying to figure out
my reason for recommending that it be discussed in the executive session further is due to personnel changes, and considering that we're not in the building, making sure that no grades or no children are compromised in some transitions, if that makes sense. And if Superintendent Dixon feels as though my recommendation doesn't meet the requirement to be tabled, then I digress.
Does anybody else have any other discussion? Any other questions?
Let me hear his phrasing of his question again. Make sure if I'm understanding what he's asking. Mr.
I
Harris.
just have some general questions about the grading plan. I think we can, we'll accept the plan, modifications if so. So, Madam Chair, with all being said, I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation for academic grading plan.
Okay, so Mr. Harris has made the motion to accept our superintendent's recommendation regarding our alternative grading plan. Is there a second?
I second it.
Then seconded by Mr. Rouse. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Yeah. Ms. Stokes says yes, and so that motion is, were there any opposed? Okay. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay. And then our last item on our business agenda will be the staff hiring points. And I believe that's just an information item. I'm switching back and forth between on my screens. I don't think that's an action. I think that's an information item. And that is item F, staff hiring bullet points, Mr. Dixon.
Yes. Okay. Technology is great when you can work it. All righty. Mr. Basley, can you help me navigate the PowerPoint, the HR presentation? Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear
Okay,
you.
thank you. As we've been talking about for some time now, as we're talking about our onboarding process with HR and the way we're doing hiring and the things of that nature. So we wanted to kind of go through and talk about who does what, when we do, and what we do. So we're going to talk about where we're located. We're located in the central part of Georgia, which has its pluses and it also has its disadvantages. And sometimes it makes it tough for us to recruit when we're sitting in between Houston County, Bibb County, Lawrence County, Jones County, Bleckley County, for a multiplicity of reasons. But however, we are Twiggs County, the sun is shining, and we want the best and the brightest as well. Mr. Basley, if you would just pull down to the meat of where I need to be to. We attend recruitment fairs. We have job descriptions and postings, and we have vetted our applicants, and the executive and the administrative staff is very involved in the process. Come on down to the next sheet, please. The interview process consists of question bank, standardized forms, scheduling recommendations that is housed at the district maintains, the question bank, job descriptions for most positions. Most of the positions, the questions are tailored to that position. When we get down to the school level positions, those interviews are conducted by school level administration. Come on down. We have several people that are involved in the onboarding process. Finance, HR, background checks are done, benefits, payroll, superintendent, CFO, as it relates to contracts, salary sheets, HR, department heads for the reasons for compliance, ethics, and orientation. So as we're working through this process, we're trying to make as much of it become automated as possible. Certification is a big part of this process. as you're dealing with certification. A lot of times, sometimes our people come to us and we have to help them become certified. Sometimes they are fully certified. Depending on where we are, what time of the year it is, we have to work through all of those processes, getting people renewed. So as we're working through those processes, the first part, you must have an application on file. Once you have an application on file, you become a candidate to be interviewed. Once you are interviewed, then there must be a recommendation. Then once there's a recommendation from the principal or the department head, it comes to the superintendent. The superintendent in turn brings it to the board, and then the board in turn approves or denies, and then you become an employee of Twiggs County Public School System. And that is our process.
Does anyone have any questions or any comments about our superintendent's presentation on our hiring processes?
One of the concerns that the board has had consistently or continuously was exit interviews, and I did see it on the PowerPoint. Mr. Basil, if you could bring back that slide that we can possibly discuss, or Superintendent Dixon can give us a slight overview of the exit process.
As a part of our Title II requirements, we have to do exit interviews with our staff. So we do exit interviews with whether it be through an evaluation electronically, where staff is given an opportunity to answer some questions about their exit process, their experiences in Twiggs, their resources. So those are the kinds of questions, the professional learning, so their climate and culture. Those are the types of questions that are on their exit interview process.
I think we can further discuss the exit process in some manner, as there are a few other areas of concern, but the exit process, just as they were interviewed face-to-face, I do feel the need to have a face-to-face exit process as well.
Who would you like to see in that interview?
Some of those same people who did interviews for hire.
Okay.
And Mr. Dixon, it would just be my suggestion, whether it's a face-to-face or whether it's SurveyMonkey or an online survey, that we do the same thing for every employee, or either the same thing for all of our teachers or the same thing for all of our classified staff. But in my opinion, it would need to be streamlined. It would need to be the same thing for everyone, and that way it would be fair. And one of the things, if our board could ever get some of the results of those interviews so that we can do what we need to do to help improve our school system, to make our teachers want to stay and to provide, we want to do everything we can do to provide the best circumstance and the best atmosphere possible to foster that learning and that teaching environment for our teachers and for our employees. Now, speak up, please, board, if I've stepped over or if I'm not representing the board when I say that, but it seems like that is one of the things that we have talked about in the past on our board, that we want to know if we have teachers leaving, we have people leaving, we want to know why. Is there something we can do better, we can do to improve our board, to improve our school system, to help our teachers and make them want to stay and make this be the place that they just want to be. So.
Absolutely. I do totally agree with that, Rainey. Feedback will help us be better board members, better stewards for our community and to our schools. So we would appreciate if we could get a lot of we get a few, but if we can get some more input on the reason why people are leaving, we need to know so we can make things better for our system.
Sure.
And I may have missed this slide, but Excuse me. Also, in our interview, do we list out, Superintendent Dixon, those persons or positions who would sit on the interview panel?
Do we list out as in the names of people or?
Positions, not names. Positions or personnel who would sit among the interview panel.
No, we don't.
Okay, that's another conversation that the board has had consistently about who should do interviews. So I think we need to spell out in this preparation to do a formal interview process. Who are those persons or personalities or positions at large throughout the district who should be on the interview panel?
Okay. And did you all have any personalities that you all would like to see in those interviews as we're getting ready to start into that season?
Well, I would just say whoever it is, it needs to be fair and consistent across the board for every employee. If you have this group of employees who interview this candidate and another group who interviews another candidate, and it's for the same position or either the same school or the same grade level, then I don't know if we're being fair and consistent with our interviewing processes, but I would just say it would need to be consistent who those people would be. That would be my only request. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for that presentation. That's a good slideshow. That's a good visual to go back on and to show that of employees. Well, that's really good. That's a very, very good PowerPoint. All right.
Item, Madam Chair, we'll get this again before we take it as an action item to formally vote on our process.
That night was just an information item. So yeah, I think they'll work on that and bring it back. But this is the time to be interviewing and looking for teachers. If you wait too late, the pool will get smaller and smaller as it comes if we're needing teachers. So with that, okay. Anything else? All right, that concludes our business agenda for this evening, and it is now time to go into executive session. I entertain a motion from the board to move into executive session, and I think it's personnel matters. I think it's only personnel matters, but I'm going to make sure that's what is on our agenda. Okay, so we need to move into executive session for personnel matters, are classified staff recommendations. Is there a motion to do that?
Madam Chair, I motion that we move into executive session for personnel recommendations.
Second.
The motion has been made by Mr. Harris and seconded by Ms. Blackshear to move into executive session for personnel matters and recommendations. All in favor, please raise your hand. And Ms. Stokes, what say you? Yeah. Yes, Ms. Stokes says yes. And that motion carries unanimously. We shall return in the same format.
All right, how's everybody doing?
It's great.
Good.
I mean, I think Ms. Stokes lost her sound, something on her computer, but I've had her on my speaker phone.
Yeah, I've been sitting here monitoring. So you guys aren't on screen
I'm
right now.
hanging up with you, Ms. Stokes. So call. I'm hanging up with her. Okay. We are back from our executive session, and I entertain a motion from the board to return from executive session to regular session.
I'll make that motion.
The motion has been made by Ms. Stokes. Is there a second?
Second that motion.
This motion has been seconded by Mr. Harris. All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries unanimously. Ms. Stokes said aye. All right, and in our executive session, we discussed personnel matters. And regarding EID 3159, is there a motion to approve our superintendent's recommendations regarding EID 3159.
Madam Chair, I move that motion.
The motion has been made by Ms. Blackshear. Is there a second? Mr. Rouse?
Second it.
This motion has been seconded by Mr. Rouse involving EID 3159. All in favor, please raise your hands.
Aye.
And or say aye, and that motion carries unanimously. Okay. So the next item of our superintendent's recommendation involved EID 3133. Is there a motion to approve our superintendent's recommendation, accept that resignation?
I'll make that motion.
The motion has been made by Mr. Rouse. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Stokes. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Okay, or say aye. And that motion carried unanimously. And then our last recommendation was the resignation for EID 3221. Is there a motion to accept that resignation?
I make that motion.
The motion has been made by Ms. Blackshear. Is there a second?
I second it.
Seconded by Mr. Rouse. And all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries unanimously. So that concludes that includes the recommendations from our executive session, and I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion that we adjourn.
And guess who made that motion? Ms. Stokes. And is there a second?
I second it.
Seconded by Mr. Rouse. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
And raise your hand. That motion. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I enjoyed it. Bye, Ms. Stokes.
Wait a minute.